In an earlier video, I talked about using the market strength indicator for MT4 in multiple timeframes. And in this video, we're using the indicator in a more complex way and applying it to the world of stocks and index futures. And what I've created here is an array of 4. On the left-hand side, the first array is on a 1-minute time frame, and we have 3 index futures there. We've got the S&P, we've got the Nasdaq, and we've got the Dow. The other 3 panels are different time frames. We start with the 1 minute, the next is the 5 minute, and the one on the extreme right is 15 minute. And on those charts, I've applied the market strength indicator to 5 key stocks. As you can see in the 1 minute window, we've got Apple, we've got Tesla, we've got Microsoft, we've got Amazon, and we've got Nvidia. So what we have here is a very elegant way of viewing in a single workspace what is the several things, in fact. First of all, what is the sentiment towards those particular stocks from the index futures, or what is the relationship with the index futures themselves? And what you need to understand is the importance of, or the significance that these stocks, and indeed a handful of others, the weighting that these stocks carry in an index. If these stocks are rising, then generally speaking, the index will be rising and vice versa, because of the weighting that they carry. If you look at the S&P 500, for example, you will see that the top 5, 6, or 7 stocks there carry a 30 or 40% weighting alone, whereas the remaining 490 odd stocks carry very little weight themselves. And indeed, if you looked at stocks anything below spot 20 or 30, their significance is very, very small, or their impact on the index is very small indeed. So that's one aspect you need to consider, and obviously this highlights it very clearly, because if we're looking at the index future either to establish the relationship that we're looking at in terms of the stocks, or indeed if we're trading the index future per se, this gives us a very visual perspective on several aspects. First of all, when that index itself is perhaps reaching an overbought or oversold state, which I looked at in an earlier video. And secondly, the strength of any trend that's developing. We can see on the 1 minute here, we had a strong trend to the downside, and that's been reversed very quickly with a strong trend to the upside, which is what we see all the time, obviously on fast charts. And thirdly, what it also reveals is the relationship between these 3 key indices. Normally, we would expect them to be moving in lockstep, which in this case they are, but that is not always the case. On many occasions, you will see, for example, technology, Nasdaq 100, will be moving either very strongly in a different direction, or indeed in a completely opposite direction. Often you will see S&P and Dow maybe languishing somewhat, whereas technology is riding a wave. So you'll see the Nasdaq rising strongly and perhaps the other 2 are not. And if you're an index trader, certainly something you need to be aware of. So very many different aspects are revealed through the prism of the market strength indicator, and you can use it in very different ways, as I've shown here. This is a very elegant way of using it. And then, of course, we're looking at these stocks themselves, these 5 stocks. Now, we may well be trading them, and if we are, then one of the things we would like to know is what are they doing together? Because as a group, they will tend to move en masse, not always, but generally speaking, they will. Purely by virtue of the sentiment in the market and the weight that these stocks carry. But that aside, even if we are just looking at trading a stock individually, on the one hand, we could have on the left-hand panel, we could have our index futures giving us perspective, and indeed we could have those in multiples as well. And then on the right-hand side, we can have our stock or our group of stocks or an individual stock that we want to see and focus on. And perhaps, as I outlined in an earlier video, we're looking to get into a potentially overbought or oversold situation, or maybe to jump on a trend that is already developing. And that's the beauty of the indicator. It is very visual. You can use it in many, many different ways. And I hope that in this short video, I've given you some food for thought, some ideas to play around with the index and ways to use it yourself. In a combination, you might use, as I have here, we mix futures with stocks, or you might just using it for stocks themselves, or you might just be using it for futures themselves. There are lots of different ways of combining it, but it gives you this very visual representation which tells you so much. It tells you when something is overbought potentially, or potentially oversold. It also tells you the strength of the trend higher, the strength of any trend lower, and equally when something is not really moving, when it's in a congestion phase, when it's moving sideways. And that can apply to an index, or it can apply to a stock, or it could apply, this could be an ETF, it could be a commodity, we could have a metals workspace, we could have a soft commodity workspace, we could have an energy workspace. Any which way, you can use it in many different ways. It's really only restricted by your mindset and how you can apply this indicator and use it in different and elegant ways to give you so much information very quickly. We don't need masses of charts here. This gives us all the information we need. And of course, we then use it in combination with others. And in our case, we would use it in combination with our underlying methodology, which is volume price analysis. That's our key methodology. So again, you could combine it with a price chart, so you could have the indicator as we do in the currency strength world. We have the currency strength indicator on one side, and then maybe we'll have various time frame charts on the right hand side. There are lots and lots of different ways of using it. As you can see, it is a very visual indicator and very intuitive in many ways. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Lots more to come as always. So thanks for watching. See you soon, and bye for now.